Hey, welcome. I'm James Meraz. I'm a professor and associate chair at ArtCenter College of Design. I'm the associate chair of the graduate department of furniture, lighting, fixtures, and spatial experience design. And we're here in the beautiful 950 space, our South Campus. And we're here with the graduate galleries. And we have an exhibition happening right now called Reveal, uncovering layers of creativity. And this whole gallery is about expressing process from our graduate students. We have 10 departments here, and this show represents 6 of those departments. And we want to meet a couple of the students exhibitors in a little bit, but come on and take a look. So as you can see, this exhibition is all about revealing the process. And over here we have Andi Lee, and she's a furniture, lighting, fixtures student who's going to be graduating, I think, this term. So we're going to be talking to Andi about her process. And we're also going to be talking to Oscar Chang. Here's his works over here. You can see a little bit of his process through the system that was created with the gallery. Okay, hey guys, how you doing? Welcome. Thanks so much for doing this. And we kind of want to learn about your process and about the work you have going here. First, let me just ask you, what was your journey coming to ArtCenter? Why did you decide to come to graduate school here in furniture, pictures, Andi?
So I graduated here with product design degree, my bachelor degree, and afterwards I was working as a soft look designer in LA. And during my undergrad, I did some furniture projects, but they're not enough for to getting a job in the furniture industry. So while working, I still want to do something about furniture, so I decided to come back to ArtCenter to get a furniture, lighting, and fixture design.
How's it going so far?
It's great.
Yeah, and I guess you're graduating this term, right?
Yeah.
So are you working on your grad show now?
Yeah, I'm working on my thesis project and also grad show.
Great. Yeah, I want to hear more about that in a while. And Oscar, tell us about your process.
Yeah, so hi, my experience is a little different. I have a fine art background in Chicago, and I studied actually printmaking and sculpture for my undergrad, and I had this very obsessive passion on craftsmanship and making process. But through my undergrad study, I kind of transferred that passion towards product design and furniture design, kind of transferring that love for making to kind of designing tangible objects. And so I was working for a couple of different furniture companies and seeing what the industry is asking for in young designers, and kind of really felt that ArtCenter really, I think, stood out among other art grad schools. I think for its focus on production furniture and for a furniture piece that really kind of takes the market into concern. And to my surprise, actually, when I actually got here, our professor allowed a lot of creative freedom, so we could do our furniture like I previously did, or we can choose to do production furniture as well. So a great range, I think, of products, and it has been very rigorous so far, but I think it's really reshaping my practice.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It sounds like it's rigorous, but also allows you to choose and maybe the direction that you want to be going in. That's great. In terms of the layers of meaning question, so what have you been uncovering in your work, and how does that work for you?
I think the common theme of our work is pretty much about movement. I'm really interested in how people interact with objects and how people's movements and presentabilities interaction with the surroundings. So my work is a lot of them are inspired by these kind of movements or presentabilities. For example, the chair was influenced by thinking about how people changing postures when they're sitting, and the lighting set is inspired by when seeing this pop tube shape, people without doubt they know that it can stretch and make sounds, and they know the parts can do certain features.
It sounds very provocative and interesting. I think maybe people can learn more later about your work, and if we have a chance, we can take a little walk through it. Oscar, how about you? How's it work for you? What kind of layers of meaning do you have into your works?
So I think the prompt of layer of meaning is very interesting. It just makes me think of this aspect of discovery. I think in think just for me, doing iterations is this kind of uncovering layers of possibilities, of potentials. And my process kind of evolves in like covering, I think, as much ground as possible in a creative process. So like for this stool, for example, I did really rough sketches with different mediums like ink, pencil, markers, and when that's not informative enough, I kind of transfer to like clay, like 3D modeling and kind of 3D printing and whatever it takes to kind of to uncover, like I think, the hidden layer of possibilities for a form, for a furniture design. So like for me, I think the layers of meaning and uncovering is really within the exploration and the iterations.
Yeah, that's fascinating. It feels like that's something that you can really explore on the graduate level, program here. All right, let's maybe kind of switch over to material alchemy, which is kind of like, is there material magic? But I guess the question is, no doubt, in the materials you're thinking about, like surface, comfort, like sheen, colors, those kinds of things. So I just maybe want to ask you, like, how does that contribute to the deeper meaning? Or, you're a furniture designer, so how do you want people to experience it through furniture? And what do you have if you want to contribute to this?
I think for the choice of materials, many times it depends on like the context the product going to be used, and also like the form of the design. For example, like for a very organic shape, like if I want to upholster it, it has to be a like 4-way stretch like fabric. And also like if it's like for a commercial use or public use, the material needs to be like sturdy and be like a darker color so it don't get like dirty like really fast. So I feel like material is like really material choice is a lot of times depends on the context and the form of the product and function. But also there are also other times that a product is designed based on the material. It's like for my lighting projects, basically designed like based on like the quality of the pop tubes and plastics.
So let me just follow up with you. Is there a material you're really excited to be exploring like soon, or you are now, or in the future?
Right now I'm working on a lighting project. It's not my thesis, but it's for other class. I'm using this cold press like wood that can be bent like freehand.
Oh wow, yeah, sounds interesting. Does it transmit light at all, or is it something that's kind of opaque?
No, but it's like the wood, but it's like very soft and bendable.
Oh, I see. So it's a different behavioral aspect to it. Cool. Can't wait to see what you're going to be working on with that. Oscar, how do you feel about materiality in your work? What's the deeper meaning of it? What do you like working with?
Yeah, so I think before I came here, I only worked with wood basically. I did a lot of hands-on woodworking. So the moment I got to ArtCenter, I really wanted to get my hand onto like every single other material basically. So for the first term, I made a metal chair, and that was a really kind of like exposition on what the material is like and like how you work with it. For the second term, I really digged into like plastic furniture, and I think Andi is right. It's really about what's the most appropriate material for a certain design. Like what is this form? Like if this form is screaming out like a plastic, but really kind of sculptural quality, then you gotta use the most appropriate material to realize it. And so for me, really investigating into like rotational molded furniture for this piece in particular, and I think being able to 3D print the scale model myself using actual like plastic filaments has been really just like informative, like kind of working with the real material in the making process, in the iteration process. I think it's a very important aspect like in my practice, and it gives me like instantaneous feedback and kind of this like back and forth process. So yeah, I think for me materiality is not just the final product, but also like throughout. How do you kind of manifest that throughout the process?
It's intriguing. Sounds a little complex. I mean, would you both feel like your intuitions evolved in the way you trust that more, how you feel about materiality that you want to explore? Do you have ownership of materials?
It's like, it always takes a lot of time for experiment and then like discussions, how things can be made and then how the different material perform, especially when exploring a new material.
Yeah. You ever get disappointed with that? Or do you ever, you ever get surprised in a good way and a bad way about the material performance?
Like both, like good ways and bad ways.
Yeah. Okay.
I think in terms of ownership of material, like when you get very confident and very used to a certain material, like it's also good to like challenge yourself onto like, is there any other way to probably utilize other material in an interesting way to do the same form maybe and to kind of get out of your comfort zone. And so for me, like I did like 2 plastic furniture, so now for thesis I'm kind of like expanding to upholstered furniture and like using like felt as well. So kind of expanding and coming back.
I'm already going to look at your works differently based on this conversation already. I'm excited about that. But to build on that, do you have like hopes or desires in the way in which you want people to understand your work or experience it on multiple levels? Like, do you think about like when you see it, the silhouette of it, that's one way of understanding it and coming into it. But maybe you could talk a bit about that. And is there something that you want to reveal that's like not obvious? You know, is there an invitation to that? How do you feel about this?
I actually don't want people like to say like I want people how to experience it. More likely, I would like to create possibilities for different way of use, and so people can have their own like iteration about how they want to use the product and how they want to explore it, like using different ways.
How about you, Oscar?
Yeah, I think for me, like thinking about the experience that audience have with my piece is like, I think it's really the magic of the full scale model. And I think what really differentiates like furniture from like other industrial design or product design projects is that like we're so fixated on creating the perfect like full scale model that represents the final piece. Because experiencing it in the actual material, in the full scale, in the room, like interacting with the space around it, I think really creates that like tangible experience for people, and you get to people get to touch it, they get to maybe like sit on it, and they get to just, it's all I think the sensory experience it creates, and that's I think the magic of furniture design. That's
Yeah, it's really intriguing to have that discussion too, because I feel like, and you both have seating elements too, so it really engages somebody on a more like intimate sensorial level. How about the making? Because I know I'm sure you work with digital and hand tools and all kinds of different processes to make the piece, and we see some mock-ups here also on this exhibition. I always thought like when you make a furniture on a workshop table, you're seeing it one way, but you literally need to put it down there to understand it the way people will understand it. Are these things that, how do you navigate these kinds of processes to end up with a final physical result?
Like I always take full-size prototype before I make the final decision of the form and then materials, so I can first experience it, like just check it's comfortable, like the scale is right, and then I will just for me I make most of the stuff like by myself or like local vendors that help me to make some parts like locally, because that way it's like easier for me to control the pace and then control like how things like perform, like if there's an accident like during production or like isn't like material like difficulties that I'm making it.
Yeah, no, I can see you really engaged with that. I've seen you at the Grad FLF, like making some of the prototypes and you seem like really super focused, and so interesting to see how that process really is for you. How about you, Oscar?
Yeah, I also go from like full-scale drawing, full-scale mock-up to just really rough sketches, and I think I talked about it a little bit, but even for like 2D exploration, I like to experiment with like different mediums. Like if marker sketches are not working for this particular form, I would try like ink drawing maybe, or like even like painting or like collage sometimes. So like really finding that way, the right way to execute the most desired form. And I think that can really, there's no one formula for it for me. Like it's really depends on the project, and also each week it might be different. It's also very back and forth. You do full scale, and then some part was a little off. You could go back to the rough exploration phase, and then back to full scale again. So a back and forth, and yeah.
So it sounds very fluid. It doesn't seem like that's a sequential linear process. It seems almost like you guys are like choreographers or musicians or something like that. So shift gears a little bit too, and would you say, does your work like challenge or disrupt conventions, or, and I ask that too to maybe have a conversation about how's your work different than what you see? Do you think about it that way? Are you making work that fits within certain conventions, or do you think like, well, this exists, so I'm doing it kind of this way? Or how do you think about that in terms of like, your work? I don't want to say standing out, but what's the difference between yours and maybe what's happening in the world or the convention of this field?
So I feel like for furniture and lighting, first it has to be something people can understand, understandable. So it definitely like fits in some conventions, and also people have common ergonomics. So I think these are the similarities of like every like furniture or lighting product. But there are always some opportunities people can get some insights from research and about like how people interact with objects, and then getting inspiration from that, and also like getting inspiration from other like daily items, and then making something special, but like not like completely like not understandable.
Okay, I see. So you don't make a chair that's just a bit of nails or something like that, where it's something very harsh. It's more. I don't want to say utilitarian, but it's really about making something that can be experienced on multiple levels. It has some longevity. And I guess that's a question we haven't really asked yet too. What your furniture and lighting, and maybe you don't have the answer yet, is there a certain kind of either market or user that you like to think about, or what's that for you?
Like for the chairs, probably for commercial, but like for the lighting, it's definitely like residential.
Ah, I see. Okay.
I don't live in myself right now. I'm still open for like exploration.
Yeah. I mean, you seem really nimble too, because I feel like, your lighting feels a little more like pop or artful and kind of playful, and even your furnishings you do that I think are more commercial still have a bit of that, but they're also like very, I can say they feel very like legitimate and valid. So it's pretty incredible you can navigate in that way. How about you, Oscar?
Yeah, I think challenging, like how much we challenge the convention and the market is, I think it's always the discussion that goes on in our classrooms. And because, unlike other schools, we try to do things that have some kind of production value. So we will constantly do like trend research and look at other companies that are producing some things that we're interested in, and looking at their brand value and design philosophy, and kind of digging out an aspect that we can kind of develop on, and to find our own uniqueness while still kind of be cohesive with like some kind of like brand design philosophy. Maybe it's like the next step or a unique take. But yeah, I think it's a constant push and pull between your self-expression and the marketing need, and also the experience for the audience. So it's the constant.
Now you sound like chefs, and it's like a lot of ingredients that you put into there, but then you put your special sauce in there, for your work. So getting back to this, incredible exhibit that we have here before us, that you participated in, have you experienced any shift, or has doing this exhibition, being part of this group show, has that made you think a little differently about what you do, or any insights that have come from being part of this?
guess like for me, this exhibition is very different in that it's really showing the process, which you don't get to show in like conventional trade shows or you know, pretty much any other design exhibitions. And so we get to think of our design as like not as like a very close and resolved piece, like single piece, but like a more open-ended, temporal, like process exploration and kind of the process of becoming. And I think, like for me at least, it allows me to look at my work with a growth mindset, I would say, like without kind of like, you know, this is the design, this is what it is, but it's part of like how my practice evolves, and it's just part of the process instead of being a concrete and just object. So I think for me, looking at it this way,
it seems like it's pretty nimble. And then maybe Andi, back to you too. I mean, you're sharing a lot of the process over here. Is that something you normally would do, or is this a little different than that, or just an extension, or how do you like this idea, showing your work, or do you usually keep that kind of hidden?
Yeah, it's usually hidden. It's like for other exhibition, how we like presenting my work is always just like final result. But for this one, we present like the process, and I just realized that I saw I have the same process for every project, but like actually the process for these two is like pretty different. It's like
yeah. I mean, I guess you could think about it like, you know, how did the audience take this in, as opposed to if you, I'm sure you all exhibit your furniture fairs and shows like that, and that's a different audience. I think probably that's a conversation you have to have with yourself and nimble, and how do you know, set it apart when that's appropriate, or maybe it's a little different, you know, and unique. So hopefully that's being part of this is something you can kind of put under your belt and maybe like explore that a little further, you know. So these were really, we covered, you know, the questions in here, and I kind of want to ask you guys, is there like, do you want to share anything you're working on next, or you know, can people like find your work anywhere?
So I'm working on my thesis project. It's a bench system that like inspired by like the pandemics between people like getting closer or like getting like more apart. And I'm right now making my prototypes, and it will be shown during the Grad show at like April 26th.
April 26th?
Pasadena Convention Center.
Okay.
And I'll have my work in my website like ndd.design.
Okay, we'll make sure we put that in the in the post for this later. How about you, Oscar?
Yeah, pretty much the same. Working on the thesis, like the Grad show. Also doing a collection with a launch chair, a floor lamp, and a side table. It's kind of in terms of scale, the biggest like project done so far, and really learning how to work with like overseas manufacturers and arranging everything and putting together a vignette rather than just a single piece. So very excited for that, and I think we both are exhibiting our work at the SEFF show in New York.
Oh, when's that happening?
Coming May
18th.
Yeah.
May 18th in New York?
June 20 in Javits
Everybody
Center.
be there, May 18th, Javits Center. Please do.
Yeah, so we'll be there as well, and
Do you have your work online anywhere?
yeah, on my website and also Instagram.
Okay, great. We'll put that up there for everybody. Yeah, thanks you guys so much for having this conversation, and we just want to invite everybody to come to the exhibition. It's going to be up here till mid-June here on our 950 South Campus, and we'll be having another talk coming up. We have April 18th, we're going to have Prachiti. She's a graduate spatial design student candidate, and on May 16th we have Shinji Wu, who's a grad graphics exhibitor here, and then on June 20th we'll have Greta Long, and she's also a graduate graphics candidate who's showing her works here. So thanks a lot, everybody. Look for us on the next Black Box Talks, and see you then. Say bye, everybody. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.